Many years ago, before weddings became projects that could empty the savings of responsible adults, friendship used to mean something simple in the life of Undeka. Undeka lived in Benin City. She worked as a secretary at Prime Access Limited, one of those companies whose name sounded as if they handled billion naira contracts, but nobody in the neighborhood could confidently explain what they actually did. Every morning, Njideka sat behind an old desktop that had faithfully served the company. The monitor had developed its own personality. One side of the screen had gone blind, so anytime she wanted to read a full sentence, she had to tilt her head like someone trying to hear gossip from the next compound. The keyboard wasn't any better. The letter S had to be pressed twice before it agreed to appear, while the spacebar only worked when it was in a good mood. But somehow, Njideka and that computer understood each other. Her salary wasn't something anybody would post on social media with the caption "God did." It paid her rent, it kept food on her table, and covered her transport. To Njideka, life was balanced. Well, that was before one WhatsApp notification arrived. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon when the office became unusually quiet because everybody was pretending to work while waiting for closing time. Njideka had just finished typing a letter that had taken almost 30 minutes. As she stretched her back, a WhatsApp notification popped on her phone. She looked at the screen. "You were added to Tamara Premium Ashwebi." Njideka blinked. Ashwebi? In this hard time? She looked around the office as if someone there would explain what just happened, but nobody looked interested. She tapped the notification. Immediately, messages began entering like people rushing into a hall after hearing that food had been served. "Welcome, beautiful ladies. Our bride deserves nothing but the best." Then another message. "This wedding must shake Benin City." Njideka frowned. Which one is shake Benin City again? She scrolled up carefully. Then she saw the display picture. Tamara, her university classmate, the same Tamara who used to assist her back in school. Tamara never misses to check up on her each time she misses any lecture. Njideka smiled. Tamara deserves everything good. Without wasting time, she typed, "Tamara, congratulations, I'm so happy for you." The reply came almost immediately. "Thank you, my dear. I can't wait to see you that day." Njideka laughed. Marriage was beautiful, especially when it happened to someone you genuinely like. Then she noticed something. The list of members appeared. These were the names of her university classmates. She started counting. Adora, Tomisi, Ifeoma, Chisom, Amaka, Tolani, Zara, Nnenna, Onyinye, Damilola, Ezinne. Was this a wedding or a political campaign? Just then, Adora, the unofficial chairlady of the group, typed, "Ladies, since we are all here, let's make this wedding unforgettable." Almost immediately, Tomisi replied, "Exactly, we have to represent." Another message came from Zara. "Our bride deserves premium treatment." Njideka nodded as she read. That sounded reasonable. After all, every bride deserves a beautiful wedding. Then Adora typed again, "Ladies, I think we should start planning immediately." Njideka whispered to herself, "Planning is usually a good thing. Responsible adults should plan." Adora continued typing. "First things first, our Ashebi." Njideka nodded to herself. That made sense. A few seconds later, another message appeared. "I've already spoken to the designer in Lagos." Njideka paused. "Lagos?" She looked at the message again. Lagos was over 300 kilometers away from Benin. Did Benin suddenly run out of tailors? Before she could even finish that, Tomisi replied, "Is she good?" Adora answered almost immediately, "Did you say good?" She's the same designer that made dresses for a senator's daughter's wedding last December. The group instantly became lively. "Yes, yes, I've seen her work. She's amazing. She's worth every naira." Njideka quietly drank some water. Whenever people started describing somebody as worth every naira, she had noticed that the naira involved was usually not a friendly one. Then, Adora dropped the next message. Each dress will cost just 185,000 naira. Njideka almost sprayed water across her table. Her colleague looked up immediately. "Njideka, are you alright?" "Yes, yes," she replied weakly. The water just entered the wrong road. Her colleague nodded and returned to his work. If only he knew. It wasn't just the water, it was the number. Njideka looked back at her phone. 185,000 for one dress? Then she opened her banking app. The balance appeared. She stared at it. The balance stared back. For a few seconds, both of them respected each other's silence. Finally, she closed the app. There was no point embarrassing herself twice. Meanwhile, the messages kept coming. "We need matching heels, professional makeup, luxury gele, pre-wedding photo shoot outfits." Njideka sat up properly. "Photo shoot?" she whispered under her breath. "I thought the people getting married were only two." Before Njideka could absorb that one, Adora typed again, as if she was personally paid to be the coordinator. "Ladies, I don't think we need to enter like normal guests." The group agreed almost instantly. "Exactly. We are the bridal squad. We should show them. People should feel our presence." Njideka whispered to herself, "But the couple haven't even entered. Why are we already looking for who should feel us?" Adora continued again. "We need someone to teach us the trending dance steps." Yemisi answered before anybody else could. "Definitely. We can't disgrace Tamara." "Disgrace?" Njideka looked confused. "Since when the working require rehearsals?" Adora continued confidently. "I've contacted one in Lagos. He will charge just 25,000 per person." Njideka stared at her screen. She quietly locked her phone, then unlocked it again. The amount was still there. Sometimes you lock your phone hoping bad news will disappear. Unfortunately, the conversation had moved. "Ladies, don't worry. Memories are beautiful." Njideka smiled nervously. "But we can make all these memories without these transactions now." By closing time, the group had already crossed 211 messages. Njideka just slipped her phone into her handbag. People she hadn't seen in years had already made plans of where her salary would go. As she walked towards the bus stop, one thought refused to leave her mind. The wedding was still in 1 month. 1 month! But somehow, her bank account had already started looking nervous. By the time Njideka got home that evening, she checked her WhatsApp one last time. Big mistake. The group had produced 443 new messages. Ha! Did these people not go to work today? She opened the group. Adora had clearly been working overtime. "Ladies, I have spoken to the designer. She said we should come for our measurements next Saturday." Tomisi replied immediately. "Perfect." Zara added, "I've already cleared my schedule." Njideka looked at her own calendar in her phone. Next Saturday? She was supposed to go to early morning market so she could get cheaper footwears. She looked at the messages again. The market would have to wait. She couldn't even explain why. Everybody else already sounded committed. And commitment, especially inside WhatsApp groups, can be very contagious. She continued scrolling. Another message from Adora. "Ladies, there will be just a small deposit. Only 80,000 for now." Njideka stared at the phone, then at the ceiling, then back at the phone. She whispered, Adora, is it 80,000 naira you're calling only? She leaned back on the sofa and folded her hands. One thing had become very clear. This wedding was interested in her salary, and every new message sounded like another soldier arriving at the battlefield. The next morning, Njideka woke up as a financially responsible adult. By 8 a.m., the WhatsApp group had already destroyed that adulthood. Adora had already typed a message. Ladies, I just paid for the luxury hotel. Who is next? There were pictures, voice notes, receipts. In fact, if WhatsApp could collect rent, that group alone would have bought a duplex. Njideka stared at the message and sighed. God, why can't people just wear Ankara and eat jollof rice in peace? Then, she wasn't going to look like the broke bridesmaid, the one everybody discusses in private. Didn't she know this wedding was coming? You know those kind of talk. Then, she downloaded her first loan app. Within 5 minutes, credit alert. Eh? Just like that? No interview, no village meeting, no guarantor. Money just entered like that. Njideka blinked twice. This is good. She paid for the first item, but at this point, Njideka wasn't sure if she was attending a wedding or sponsoring a government project. There were a lot of things to pay for, and the earlier she paid, the better for her. By the next week, Njideka had become so familiar with loan apps. 3 different loan apps had all contributed to one person's wedding. And do you know the funny part? The bride, Tamara, didn't even know. 2 weeks later, everything was finally complete. The asoebi was hanging neatly on the wardrobe. The makeup balance had been paid for. Transportation sorted. Hotel bill sorted. Even the bridal shower package had collected its own share. Njideka stood in front of the mirror, then smiled. At least I won't look like my problem. On the day of the wedding, the hall was already packed with guests. At that point, nobody even knew who was invited or who had simply followed someone to come and eat. When the bridesmaid danced in, you would think they had been rehearsing that entrance since January. There was more than enough food to eat, drinks to go round. Guests laughed, ate and celebrated with the couple. One oversabi aunty had already promoted herself to assistant head girl caterer, standing beside the food table and telling the chefs who deserves extra meat and who should manage one piece. Nobody hired her, but she carried out her duties with full confidence. It was all fun. Njideka enjoyed every single moment of it. Before 3 p.m., the wedding ceremony had come to an end, and one by one, the guests had begun making their way home. They took selfies and posted. Njideka entered the bus back home. When she got home, she immediately removed her heels. My feet, she groaned. Her phone battery had died since afternoon. She plugged it in to charge. When the phone came on, almost immediately, a notification came up. She opened it. Her smile disappeared. Dear customer, your repayment is due in 48 hours. Njideka frowned. Before she could even process it, another message entered. Your loan repayment is approaching. Please ensure your account is funded. Njideka looked at her phone. My God, it suddenly occurred to her. The wedding was over. Tamara was probably enjoying her honeymoon. Guests had gone home. Life had moved on. Only one thing refused to move on: her death. That night, she refused to sleep. By the next morning, it was as if the loan apps held devotion with her name. One called by 7:03 a.m., another by 7:11, another by 7:18. At first, Njideka was still answering politely. Good morning, sir. Good morning, ma. Yes, I'll pay. I'm working on it. At work, she became unusually quiet. Even her colleague noticed. Njideka, are you alright? She forced a smile. Yes, I'm fine. But she wasn't. One afternoon, while she was at her desk pretending to concentrate on work, her phone rang. She immediately grabbed it, looked around to make sure nobody had noticed, rejected the first call. Another call entered. She rejected it again. The third one entered. She equally rejected it. The calls kept coming so fast that her colleague looked up from across the office. Undeka, who has been calling you since morning? She just smiled nervously. Oh, it's nothing. Yet, her hands were already cold. It was as if the three loan apps had formed an association. If one couldn't reach her, the others would gladly continue the ministry. The following week, Nneka applied for a staff loan. When the money entered, she didn't even admire the alert. There was no excitement. She transferred the money immediately. She transferred to the first loan, to the second loan, and then to the third loan. She dropped her phone. For the first time in weeks, nobody was calling. She should have been happy, right? Instead, she felt empty because she knew her peace had come with a price. The following month, her salary entered. Almost immediately, the company removed their own share. Ha! She looked at what remained. 12,300 naira. This one is only for my transport for 5 days. And just like that, sipping garri became her breakfast. On days when she could trek to save up, she added milk and groundnuts. When she got home, she sat quietly, sipping her garri. Then it suddenly hit her. There were still 3 whole weeks before the next payday, all because she was afraid of people judging her. Maybe, just maybe, she should have spoken up. Maybe she would have simply admitted that she could only pay for what she could truly afford. Now, she's the only one feeling the pressure. Thank you for watching this story. Kindly tell me your thoughts and lessons in the comment section. Do well to like and share with your loved ones. Don't forget, every life is a diary. See you in the next story.